So, Doc Letty, ikaw na yung mag-intro. Would you like
Ako na yung good morning. Ikaw na mag-introduce sa kanya.
Sige, I'll do that.
Sige, let's start. Isang magandang umaga ng Miyerkules sa inyong lahat, mga ang ginigiliw naming tagasunod. Siguro 1 milyon na kayo, no? But anyway, excited kami kasi ang ating bagong topic ay, sabi ko nga kanina, ay cross-cutting, knows no borders. And ang ating guest ngayon ay one who has a good grasp of everything and especially yung relevant sa atin sa pagkain. Pero syempre, hindi ako ang mag-introduce. Ang aking katuwang si Doc JD. Ako naman si Doc Letty. Ayan.
Hi.
Good morning, everyone.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. So ngayon po ay araw ng Miyerkules at ako po si Doc JD na magpapakilala po sa atin pong ekspertong panauhin ngayong episode ng Kwentong Likas Yaman. At ang aking ipapakilala ay malapit sa aking puso dahil siya ay talagang naging kaibigan ko noon pa sa De La Salle University sa Biology Department, College of Science, at napakarami na niyang naging posisyon doon dahil sa kasalukuyan, isa na siyang retired professor with the highest rank ng Professor 12 and syempre isa rin siyang kinikilalang University Fellow. Ang kanyang research ay talagang kilala sa buong daigdig na kasi international ang kaniyang mga connection din, ano? And ito ay umiinog doon sa tinatawag nating zoonotic protozoan and helminthic parasites, no? So isa siyang parasitologist, our own, very own parasitologist in the country and internationally known. And she has a lot of publications na talaga naman sinasite at makikita niyo po ang listahan doon sa Google Scholar. So hindi ko na pala lawigin dahil talaga si Ma'am ay isang expert and it is really an honor and great privilege na siya ay ating makapanayam tungkol sa parasitismo. Okay? So ito na po si Dr. Florencia Claveria at siya po ay babati muna bago po susundan natin ng ating talakayan. Dr. Florencia Claveria or Dr. Poots. Tama po ba?
Salamat Dr. JD and Dr. Letty for the very generous introduction of me. Good morning to both of you. And I thank you very much for inviting me and to be part of your program for just a few, probably less than in less than an hour, and to discuss a field or an area of studies that is very relevant to each and every one of us. And this is about parasites. So my focus will be on animal parasites. I'd like to start with some very basic concepts about parasitism. What is a parasite? A parasite is an organism that has a long, close, and non-mutual relationship with other organisms, which we call the host. So when we deal with parasites in animals, we refer to them as parasites. And these parasites in plants are called pests. So peste. Parasites sa animals. Dalawang klase ng parasitiko. Okay? Basically, dalawang klase. Meron yung tinatawag na ectoparasites. Meron yung endoparasites. Example ng ecto, nasa labas ng katawan ng organismo ng host. Like nasa skin, nasa hairs. For example, okay, any exposed surface of the body is prone to infection. Not just parasitic infections, but other kinds of infections. So, like for animals, for examples of ectoparasites are
Kuto.
fleas, kuto,
Yeah.
ano pa, yung ticks.
Sa
Ticks.
aso. Yeah.
Anong tawag nga yun sa ang ticks?
Pulgas.
Pulgas, flies, kuto, at or let's say aphids, yung mga yan, no? So, and then ectoparasites. Ang endoparasites are maraming klase. May endoparasites na they prefer to infect tissues, muscles, brain, liver tissue, any organ, basta tissue. And blood. Blood is a tissue. So meron din sila doon. Marami din is luminal or tinatawag coelozoic. They get into anything that is hollow. Intestine. They get into let's say sa liver mo, meron kang mga ducts dyan, ducts. So marami. Anything that is hollow, they get into that. So we call those the histozoic, histology. And then meron din yung, they prefer cells. They get inside cells. We call this the cytozoic. Comes from the term cytoplasm. So, sa loob. Okay, tatlo. Tapos, later magbibigay ako ng mga examples. Maraming Cenozoic parasites. Ascaris, doon narinig na natin yun, Ascaris, tapeworms, meron tayong mga tissue forms like yung lung, may lung worm, and then cytozoic naman like malaria, plasmodium, yung mga yon. Ngayon, ang ectoparasite brings about what we call infestation. So we just correct the terms, no? We refer to it as an infestation. Anything that engages an endoparasitic form, we call that infection. Okay? Infection. And when an infection or an infestation becomes severe and starts to produce symptoms, then that's the time we give it a particular term as a disease. Like for example, you're infected with plasmodium and then it can develop into a disease we call malaria. Okay, so that one. The parasites are very interesting. They utilize host. Anong klaseng animals yung ginagamit nila? Iba-ibang klase. Depende sa parasite. Napaka-smart ng mga parasites. Kanya-kanya silang every parasite develops a unique way of surviving, a unique way of ensuring na magre-reproduce siya such that they get transmitted. Because otherwise, pag wala silang kapasidad na ganun, then we will lose them as they cannot they cannot sustain their survival as a species. They will pamamamatay talaga sila, mawawala sila sa mundo. And then, sabi ko, maraming klase. Ano yung mga host na pwede nilang gamitin? Livestock, okay? Birds, mammals, snails, crabs. They also utilize, there are parasites that utilize vegetation. So that we refer to them as, or they utilize, or they make use of other organisms, not only as an intimate host, but something that will help in their transmission. Okay? Like we look at, so we refer to them as vector-borne parasites. Like vector-borne parasites are those vectored by mosquitoes. All of the mosquitoes in the Philippines carry parasites, like those that cause filariasis, and vegetation, o kaya shrimps, freshwater fishes, and not only that, even marine fishes, they have parasites. So it's all over the place. It's in our midst. In fact, the Philippines is prescribed to be a haven for parasites. A haven for parasites.
Ma'am,
And
kasi
yet,
dami nating biodiversity. Biodiverse ang ating flora, fauna, and other organisms. Kasama dyan yung parasites. So it's both a blessing and a blessing.
Yes. And it's because it's tropical.
Yes, exactly.
Wala silang problema na unlike those in the US or in where they have 4 seasons.
Madali silang mag-establish
mahihirapan yung parasites. Pero sa atin, continuous talaga. Okay? So, ganun yan. And then, may parasites na to complete their cycle, ang importante sa parasite is kailangan nila ng pagkain. They need a host to provide the necessary nutrients, essential, and shelter. And for some, as a transport vehicle to make sure that they get transmitted and they survive as a species.
Ma'am, would you like me to share screen para meron?
Yes. Okay. So meron yung isa, monocinus. Pag sinabing monocinus, isa lang ang host lang ginagamit niya, no? Meron naman yung heterocinus. Kailangan niya ng 2 or at most 4, yung iba pa 3, 4 or even more. Okay. You want me to give examples so we can.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Okay.
Can you see it now?
These are examples of ectoparasites. So these are ticks, showing the developmental stages of ticks, and we also have a fleas.
Yeah.
Kuto. What else? Well, you may ask me, you may ask me, ma'am, are the cockroaches considered ectoparasites? Not necessarily. No. Okay. So these are examples of
bakit po hindi sila? Dahil basta hindi sila nakatira? Hindi sila nakatira sa organismo?
Wala silang host
sa labas?
Yes. So, they are more of, I would say they are more of predators. They're more of predators rather than, because ang parasite, there has to be a very intimate and very close long-term relationship that will propel for the survival and reproduction of the parasite.
Opo.
Okay.
So let's make an example. Ayan, may host.
Okay.
Parasite, ma'am ba, ay nasa sayo pero hindi ka naman immediately na namamatay kasi long-term siya na nandun na nagpo-cause ng kasamaan
Yes.
sa iyong
Yeah.
kalusugan, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
Opo.
Ito yung uniqueness ng sa parasitism, because it takes a while. Yung incubation period medyo matagal.
Mm-mm.
And there is also because I would say the severity of an infection, the severity of an infection is influenced by a number of factors.
Mm-mm.
Uh, Basically, a parasite, pag let's say na-expose ka sa parasite X, hindi ka agad magmamanifest yung disease. But initial symptoms may start to show, like siguro slight fever or feeling weak. Pero hindi it's not the disease yet. It will take some time. Because the development of a parasite, as I've said, is influenced by a number of factors. One is the virulence of the parasite. Magkaiba kasi ang lakas ng parasite. May mga parasite na mahihina. May mga parasites na malalakas. So pagpasok pa lang, kayang-kaya nilang ma-overcome yung immunity, yung immune response ng host. Virulence. Tapos, depende rin yan sa gaano kadami yung pumasok. Yung na-ingest mo. Kunwari, na-ingest mo kumain ka ng pork. And then yung pork, ang daming larvae ng parasite X. So, that will influence the development of infection. Okay. And the other one is the state of immunity of the person. That's why person who are sick become more prone to infection. Like HIV patients, when they get sick, they get all kinds of parasites, all kinds of infections because their immunity is so dampened. And the parasite the agents will take care of that. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes,
So it requires a while. So let me cite siguro yung vector examples of what are examples of vector-borne infections, okay, or diseases. So you need a vector to transmit the infection. Okay. Can we look at siguro not this one? Ito Plasmodium.
Plasmodium.
Yes. Okay. So in the Philippines, we have reports of all four types of malaria. Caused by four different species. But all in all, lahat regardless of the species, they are vectored only by one type of mosquito, the anopheline group of mosquitoes. Okay? So, when the mosquito and I would like to specify na it's just the female mosquito. Female ang mosquito because ang female mosquito lang talaga ang nagsa-suck out ng blood. At hindi male. Because although male and female mosquitoes they have a proboscis, yung proboscis ng female mosquito, mataas siya at pwede talaga siyang mag-bore through the skin and extract blood. And at the same time, if that mosquito is infected or carries the infective stage of Plasmodium, sabay din niyang mai-inject into the body. Yeah. So that's the so pagdating dito, in terms of the control, of course, pag nagkasakit na, treatment is necessary. Pero maraming preventive measures na pwede talaga.
Opo.
Like, just like addressing dengue, okay, and other mosquito vector infections, we just have to make we have to make our environment clean. We should prevent we should but not be leaving waters exposed for the mosquitoes to hibernate and reproduce. So with the intervention here is address environmental, di ba? Environmental. So madaling gawin 'yun. Madaling gawin 'yun is huwag ka nang mag-ipon ng tubig mo diyan at walang takip.
Opo. Ma'am, halimbawa yung mga flower base na nandiyan
Yes.
sa puno,
Yes.
o kaya yung mga halaman naman na nag-iimbak din ng tubig sa mga dahon-dahon, tapos ipapasok pa sa bahay.
O kaya kung gusto nila, ang gusto nila ng bulaklak din na may halaman sa loob na may water, regular ko rin chine-check.
Yun, regular. Cleaning.
Regular mo siyang palitan.
Opo.
Tapos isa din, sa mga probinsya, sa mga mahihirap na lugar, na hindi wala siguro screened ang mga bahay, dapat nagmo-mosquito net.
Ayan na si Anopheles.
Ayan.
Yan. Oo. Yeah. So we're just talking of malaria, no? Caused by Plasmodium, vectored by Anopheles. Pero sa Pilipinas, meron din tayong cases ng filariasis, lymphatic filariasis, na ang cause nun is lumalaki yung mga legs, breast, swelling, dahil yung parasite, pumupunta sila dun sa lymph tissue. So doon sila, habang dumadami sila doon, nag-reproduce sila doon, na-block yung blood flow, kaya nagkakaroon ng enlargement. Pero yung enlargement na yan is hindi kaagad yan. That does not happen right away. It takes a while and years. That's fasciola. I think I have one. I just showed the picture.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyway, dito sa Pilipinas, also vectored by mosquitoes. And interestingly, hindi lang Anopheline, pero Aedes mosquito, Mansonia, so yung mga ganong mosquitoes. And these are mosquitoes that prefer to dwell in banana leaves. Banana leaves. So those people living in areas na maraming bananas, siguro kailangan siguro pwede naman magsunog, parang meron kang usok, pwede kang magsunog doon. Anyway,
ma'am, mayroon po yatang batas diyan, pero pwede sigurong ibang way to control it, no? Kasi may batas tayo na diyan tungkol sa fire, Pero
ayan ito.
Ma'am, yan na yung filariasis niyo.
Oo. Pero JD, sa akin naman, pag let's say sa farm ka, no?
Opo.
Pwede kang marami.
Exception po yun.
Hindi naman gaano kadaming masunog. Konting sunog. Anyway, yung sunog mo na gano'n, may carbon dioxide siya. Pinipick up din naman ang carbon dioxide.
Kailangan yun sa farming, katulad ng pag magsa-cycle ka ng carbonated na humus, tapos magpapabulaklak ka ng mango,
siguro doon.
ganyan. Merong allowable
Yeah.
na
Yeah.
bawal lang
Anyway,
sa close neighborhood sa urban setting. Sa
Oo.
rural
anyway,
areas.
yung nai-emit naman na carbon dioxide, nagagamit din naman ng mga plants.
Opo.
Kaya, ano lang, in moderation lang talaga. So, I think pwede din iyon. And then yung sa water. Yung sa water. So, you see, very preventive. We just have to educate people. We just have to explain to them na preventive is better than having to wait na
Yes.
they get infected and then they suffer. Okay?
Opo.
Tapos, okay.
Yun yung mga vector-borne ang iyong ine-emphasize diyan. Pero yung isang kategorya, yung tinatawag nating foodborne.
Foodborne, okay.
Naman.
And ang foodborne is through pagkain.
Mm-hmm.
Like meat, pork, beef, or goat. Or I would say fish. Dami, iba-ibang fish.
Opo.
Crabs, shrimps, meron din.
Opo.
Ang fish, sa fish na lang, marami. Sa animals, marami. And this one, okay, that can you we show the Sarcosistis?
Sarcosistis, teka lang ha.
That's Ascaris.
Wait lang. Ching, Ascaris.
Kasi dun sa foodborne, alam ko, parang may cultural kasi tayo na yung may mga lugar tayo sa Pilipinas na mahilig talaga silang kumain ng mga hilaw na isda, yung kilawin o karne.
Yeah.
So kaya po tingin ko doon sa mga lugar na yon ay may kasanayan ng mga tao, mas mataas ang incidence o sabi nating prevalence ng ganong klase ng parasitism. Ano po?
Yeah, that's very true. This is why somewhere in Ilocos years back nagkaroon ng epidemic. And then they discovered na meron palang parasite, infected sila with echinostoma. And they called it Echinostoma ilocanum. And they named the parasite that they discovered there as existing na yung genus Echinostoma. Pero that species, very particular to that place, na identify nila, and they found out that the Ilocanos are fond of eating yung they just put vinegar or they just
kinilaw, ma'am. Kinilaw.
Yeah, kinilaw o kaya jumping, meron silang tinatawag na jumping shrimp. The shrimps they catch sa river or kaya sa river, fresh water, and then they just peel it off, tapos they dip it in sauce mixture, and then kain kaagad. So, not knowing that those...
Ma'am, siguro dahil nga akala nila yung paglagay dun sa suka, dun sa vinegar, lalo kung yung sobrang matapang-tapang yung vinegar, is enough to kill the parasites. Siguro ganun yung kanilang iniisip, kaya they think na hindi sila magkakasakit. And I think that should be changed. I mean, yung ganong yung ganong
Totoo yan, JD. Kaya nga, pagdating sa foodborne, okay, preventive. We cannot tell people stop eating meat. We can't tell them stop eating crabs or what. Preventive lang, just cook it well. Cook it well. Kung gusto nila na sige pa rin, meron pa rin silang kilawin o hindi kilawin, tawag na, parang may suka ba yun? Kung gusto pa rin nila na ganun ang pag-prepare ng pagkain nila, siguro tagalan na lang nila ng babad, hindi yung diretsong pag-peel tapos dip, kain ka agad. So in fact, preventive talaga is cook the food well, and even processed food. There is no assurance that processed food like salami or mga ham or
Mm-mm.
what are free. Like there is one parasite was that was discovered in sausages in France.
Mm-mm.
Sausages in France and toxoplasma.
Ayun. Mm-mm.
No, Trichinella, excuse me. It was not toxoplasma. Trichinella spiralis. And
Mm.
Trichinella spiralis is one that infects practically all kinds of animals,
Mm.
including invertebrates. You find them in water, you find them in soil, you find them everywhere except air. So, processed food should dapat iluto. Kaya dapat iluluto. Iluluto rin pati mga like liver. So liver also gets infected with Fasciola hepatica.
Mm-mm.
So there are people who just eat uncooked liver. There are people who do that. So these are examples. So okay, projected. No? These are examples of foodborne parasites and
Sorry.
foodborne and I
Nakikita
tell
nyo
you
yung nandito sa
hogs.
screen?
Yeah. And I tell you hogs. Yung mga baboy,
Opo.
naku, they carry a lot of.
Ito yung liver, muscles. Nakikita nyo to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Those are parasites. Yung mga yan. So those are.
Parang pag kinain mo yung laman, iniwasan mo yung taba, ayan ang laman niya kapag hindi ka marunong mamili ng tamang karne.
Oo. At
Tapos,
saka siguro ma'am sa slaughter, dapat ano din yung government parang we should also be very strict. Government should also be very strict in checking the quality of meat.
Opo.
I don't know to what extent municipalities are doing this, checking to see to it that the meat that are sold are not tainted.
Meron po
naman ganun, ma'am. May health
inspection unit.
Meron
pong sige, Doc Letty.
Sa palengke may mga health officers talaga na tinatatakan yung karne kapag when slaughtered before they are allowed to be released in public for public selling, for marketing.
Yeah.
Meron ganun, ma'am. Ito naman sila.
Yeah, but Ma'am Doc Letty, I don't think so. What about the others? Probably in big cities, but what about in the provinces?
Opo.
What is uncontrollable, ma'am, is yung backyard farming na people who will be selling in their neighborhood. Like I have a lot of pigs and then I will cut one and then I'll offer my neighborhood that I'm going to sell this meat. Yung mga ngayon, they don't go to the standard marketing protocol. So yun ang out of control. Yeah.
You know my thinking on that with the foodborne, siguro iluto na lang ng mabuti kung gusto pa talagang kainin. Siguro poor families would not throw away meat. To be very practical about it, I don't know, siguro if I were poor and then given a situation where I can see some cysts there. All I have to do is I will just cook it very well, and it's still edible. I don't know. I don't know how you would. So
ang pinakamagandang solusyon sana kung mga ganito would be to cook pag foodborne diseases. Wash well, cook well.
Wash well. Vegetables, you have to wash well because they can be contaminated or they can serve as hosts for certain parasites.
For practical use, kunwari, I have this set of vegetables coming from the market. And possibly may nakasingit sa mga singit-singit niya na mga larvae, ganyan.
Oh.
What would be the best way to clean it up? Ako kasi,
You
ang
wash?
standard procedure ko is washing with water is not enough para sa akin. Ang ginagawa ko is I put a little pinch of baking soda. Ibababad ko sandali. Everything like pati fruits, kasi kunwari grapes, mahuhugasan mo ba naman yun isa-isa, di ba? Siyempre, ibabad mo sa baking soda for 1 or 2 minutes. Actually, maglalaglagan lahat ng mga madulas kasi yung baking soda, and then i-rinse mo na lang ng water, and so it becomes clean, no? Pati yung sa, kunwari, sa mga leaves ng lettuce, cabbages, etc. It becomes parang public, baka hindi alam ng public, magandang panglinis ang baking soda. Hindi lang
I agree with you, ma'am. Washing with baking soda. That's one.
Thorough washing, ano po. Hindi po pwedeng basta lang wash na isang beses, dalawang beses, tatlo, but it should be thorough. Parang ganon.
And then you soak that. For vegetables, you can't cook naman. I mean, for fruits, you don't cook fruits. But for vegetables, if you're not very sure of the quality of the vegetables that you got, other than cleaning, washing, thorough washing, if you can cook it, edi, lutuin mo na rin lang. Pwede naman kahit steaming lang and what. So, because I remember this was years back, there was also an epidemic in Benguet. Sa Benguet. Karoon sila ng problema, ang daming infection, ang daming infected, and people were really down with amoebiasis. Amoeba is a protozoan that is transmitted through soil and water. Okay, goes into soil and then it can get into water. Okay, and they found out that in Benguet there was a time ang ginagamit nilang pangdilig na tubig. Galing doon sa canals nila where people defecated. Wala silang bathrooms, they have no provisions for those. So they were forced to do it in the river, and they used the water from that contaminated water, not knowing na contaminated before. They use that to water the plants.
Ma'am, I have a question. Sa experience nyo, sa studies nyo sa parasitology, which areas of the Philippines have you found to be most vulnerable to foodborne infestations or foodborne diseases caused by parasites?
Tayo lahat eh. Which area? I have not really done a study assessing that in the whole country, but siguro if we make an assumption that people in the cities, let's look at where people go to malls, to groceries, and rely on processed foods, and also some some vegetables, no, that they also that they buy from different places. So in terms of exposure, I think we're all similarly exposed.
Kasi ma'am, there was a year in history, I remember that, na like for example, Leyte was associated with schistosomiasis. There were years also na
but that
Cordillera was associated with certain like amoebiasis. There were specific areas in the country associated with specific types of diseases. And
when
like malaria and Mindoro and Palawan were thoroughly known for that. So they were able to generate yung mga protective mechanisms or measures, implement measures. Bago ka pupunta sa Palawan, inom ka muna ng anti-malaria, mga ganun ba? So that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you the question.
Doc Letty, my response was I thought you were talking about foodborne.
Hindi, lahat lang. Parang,
No,
oo nga.
sa lahat.
Baka,
Yeah,
focus sa
I
foodborne.
would, yeah, sa foodborne, I think we are equally,
everywhere.
but I agree for certain specific, may mga specific species. You mentioned about malaria, okay? Schistosomiasis. Why is schistosomiasis very localized? Because transmission of schistosomiasis is through an agent that has to get into a snail. And the snail species cannot be found everywhere in the Philippines. It has a very localized
habitat.
So very localized. So for example, in Leyte, this was first discovered in Leyte. The schistosomiasis was first discovered in Leyte way years back. And this led to the identification of Schistosoma japonicum, which is the Philippine strain. So I would and then in terms of malaria, syempre, we should expect to see more cases of malaria from the provinces. Yung mga liblib, no? Mga liblib na areas where they practically live with heavy in vegetation, so marami. So yun, I think that one in that context. And then like the discovery of foodborne naman ito, tong Echinostoma elocanum, that was unearthed because of a problem that arose in that place then. Na maraming namatay doon. And then that was the only time that they did an extensive research on saan kaya galing ito, and they found out ito ganito to.
Actually, like di po ba ang DOH naman, meron din silang mga interventions na ginagawa sa schistosomiasis, mass drug administration. Continuous naman po yan sa public health, lalo na dun sa mga area nga na mataas ang prevalence.
JD, there are parasites that, as I've said, they only use one, or they're very very specific in their species.
Opo.
In the species that they infect. Parang ito lang klase, like Ascaris. Ascaris lumbricoides can only infect dogs, hogs and humans. But schistosomiasis, so medyo mahirap pa rin i-control yan, no? Look at Schistosoma japonicum. Schistosoma japonicum is zoonotic. It infects all kinds of animals in the field, including rats, dogs, horses, lahat yun, humans. So even if you treat the human infection, give treatment to the human population, you can, very difficult to control transmission because there are other sources of infection, sources of parasite from the environment or from the area. So that makes it very difficult. Like if we go back to Ascaris, no? I think we are very familiar with Ascaris lumbricoides.
Opo.
I tell you, may studies sa mga schools. Okay?
Ascaris.
Studies sa mga schools. The school children were subjected to fecalysis. And ito yung general findings nila among students, okay? Especially sa probinsya. Triad, 3 klaseng intestinal parasites meron sila. May Ascaris, may Trichuris, may hookworm. And how are these
Ayan,
three
ma'am, kita nyo sa slide.
ascaris? Yeah. So this is
Ayan,
ascaris.
maraming pictures.
Yeah, this is ascaris. So as I was saying, our school children are infected with these three types. Common yan. And madali kasi ang transmission nito. It's via contaminated soil, via contaminated water. So with the kids, they play with soil. They play and then they do not wash. They go home, they do not wash their fingers. They eat. So that's how they get contaminated. And ascaris for one it's it has been for it has been it's an infection that I think can I two things. Mahirap i-control, madaling i-control. Why do I say madaling i-control? Madaling i-control kung talagang ang mga farmers natin or kaya the pig those who have piggeries, those who have to grow, those who grow or maintain hogs or mga baboy, that they should be cognizant of this parasite, that this is a parasite that infects dogs, infect these hogs, and then when when the animal waste is not properly disposed.
Yun, management.
Yes, if it's not properly disposed, or even human waste, fecal materials is not also properly disposed. So the infection does not just come from man, but it can come from from pigs.
Opo.
So again, prevention and intervention is provisions for these essential facilities. And family should have tawag nito, anong tagal sa Tagalog?
Yes, na palikuran.
Palikuran.
Opo, yung mga toilets and water supply, lahat po yan sa
dapat
sanitation.
meron talaga sila. Kaya hanggang ngayon, hindi mo talaga matanggal yung ascariasis in humans.
Opo.
Because you have another source of, a constant source of infection. And itong ascaris na ito, they're so reproductive, prolific.
Opo nga. Kaya ma'am, di ba, yung sa tsinelas, pagsusuot ng tsinelas, di ba, napakasimpleng natin kung iisipin, pero hindi nagagawa pa rin ng iba nating mga kababayan. Sasabihin nila wala silang supply ng tsinelas, pero hindi parang maging dahilan yun na hindi sila, para maiwasan natin itong parasitismo na ito. Kasi
like hookworm, paano papasok yan sa katawan? Through the skin. They penetrate the skin.
Opo.
O kaya yun ang value ng tsinelas.
Okay.
So, kaya ang sabi ko, pwede talagang i-control ang parasitism. In general, except for those that have a zoonotic nature. Parasites are zoonotic na hindi namimili kahit ano. Kaya ang hirap i-control. But for others, that are just in our midst, preventive talaga. So if you ask me, provision should be provided for proper waste disposal, human and animals, and I think proper hygiene. The kids should be taught proper hygiene, and teaching proper hygiene should start at home. And it should be followed through in schools.
Totoo yan, ma'am.
Education. We have to educate, increase awareness that these parasites are just in our midst. They are in our midst. So we have to think of the children, and who are those often exposed to soil? Di ba? Mga bata.
Opo, totoo yan.
So, okay, so I think, and then, sa pagkain naman, soil-borne, lutuin ng mabuti,
Opo.
hugasan ng mabuti, at as suggested nga ni Ma'am, I know abroad, they wash their vegetables and their fruits
Thoroughly.
with
Baking soda.
baking soda. Yeah, they do that.
Okay, so ako magsa-summarize lang para mas madaling i-grasp ng ating mga, alam niyo, mga
Okay.
bata, mga gano'n.
Okay.
Na ang ating parasitismo, ang parasites ay may dalawang klase, yung nasa labas, nasa balat, nasa buhok, nasa balat na ganyan, ectoparasite, at yung nasa loob. Yung nasa loob, posibleng nakukuha sa mga naiinom at nakakain natin. Minsan hindi naman tayo kumakain ng mga uod, pero pwede yung itlog nila nandun sa mga kinain natin. Or pwede ring dala-dala ng mga ibang mga katulad ng host. Ngayon, ang sabi ni Ma'am, ang pinaka-importanteng paraan para iwasan ito is kalinisan. Maglinis ka ng katawan, maglinis ka ng bahay, maglinis ka ng paligid. Pero syempre, yung mga natural na proseso ng katawan mo, katulad ng pagdudumi, normal yan, naglalabas ka. So, dapat may tama kang lugar ng palikuran. At kung nag-aalaga ka ng mga alagang kahayupan, syempre, may naglalabas din. Dapat may tamang proseso ang napupuntahan. Hindi yung porque lumabas na siya sa kulungan ng alaga mo, wala ka nang pakialam kung bahay. Dapat may tamang kanal, may tamang... At hindi dapat pupunta sa ilog, no? Kung pwede ngang meron kang processing area, sa totoo lang, magagamit din naman yan. Mare-recycle yan, pwedeng gawing fertilizer or pwedeng gawing pangdilig. Katulad na ginagawa sa Benguet at sa Cordillera. Ang pinandidilig talaga nila ay mga koleksyon ng mga dumi na naging lupa na, no? Kaya lang, ang problema nga doon, minsan ang mga cysts or mga larvae pwedeng mabuhay kahit sa mga ganong kondisyon. Kaya importante ang malalim at masinsin na pagiging malinis. Hugasan mo ang prutas, hugasan mo ang gulay, at lutuin mong mabuti ang mga karne. Kung mahilig ka sa mga kinilaw-kinilaw, siguraduhin mong marunong kang tumingin ng malinis na karne at isda. At kung pwede, yung lugar na kukolektahan ng mga... Kasi totoo, Ma'am, yung jumping shrimp, kumakain kami noon, masarap nung bata ako. Pero malinis yung ilog namin noong mga panahon noon. Ngayon kasi, ang ilog natin, hindi na tayo sigurado kung gaano siya kalinis. So, huwag natin ilalagay ang sarili natin sa delikadong kondisyon. So, I hope nakatulong yung pagsusummarize ko. At
kasi nga,
may...
Ma'am Lenny, Doc Lenny, hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Pwede ko sigurong idagdag na sana ma-integrate yung kahit basics lang ng parasitism, about parasites ba, sa grade school. So I don't know, is it too early to start integrating it in some of their subjects, like sa health, I don't know, sa grade age 8 years old.
Mas maganda. Kasi nga, kahit simula sa bahay pa lang, natuturuan na ng mga ganitong konsepto ng mga magulang. Kaya mahalaga po talaga na at home, magsimula ang lahat. And then, sabi mo pa kanina, isusustain yan ng ating paaralan. So, I mean,
kaya dapat makinig sila sa mga programa na ganito. Di ba? Dapat makinig sila kasi napaka-practical
Ganito yun, ma'am. Pag malinis ang magulang, walang sakit ang kabataan.
Correct. Ganun. So, sa Doc Letty, sabihin mo na yung ating alay kay ma'am.
Ayan, ikaw na. Babasahin ni JD ang aming special alay sa inyo, ma'am. dahil ito ay tradisyon at normal na kaparte ng aming kwentong likas yaman.
Oh.
Go, JD.
Opo, tinitlean ko na lang po ito na Mga Parasito, Kayang Labanan ng Husto.
Ito, o nga.
Pwede na po yun siguro, ano ma'am?
Yeah.
So ito po ang tula na alay ko kay Dr. Claveria. Pinapanayam ang isang eksperto. Parasitologist ang matunog na titulo. Hasang-hasa sa larang na pinili mismo sa loob at labas ng bansa ay kilalang totoo. Walang iba kundi si Dr. Florencia Claveria, University Fellow at retired professor na. Pinakamataas na rango o Prof 12 ang nakuha sa De La Salle University sa Taft, UP, Manila. Parasito ang kaniyang pinagkaabalahan. Inaral ang mga helminthic parasites at zoonotic protozoans. Kaya marami siyang publikasyon sa Google Scholar na sadyang binabanggit at cited ng mga sinuman. Kaya ang iniambag niya ay sobrang mahalaga. Mga parasito ang sanhi ng maraming problema. Kung mas matuturuan ng lahat ay maiiwasan talaga na magkasakit at mawala ng buhay kahit mga bata pa. Ano nga bang halimbawa ng mga sakit? Sa kategoryang vector-borne ay nagbanggit babesiosis o tick fever, lymphatic filariasis, idagdag pa ang tapeworm na hymenoplesiosis. Kung foodborne ay sadyang marami. Ito ang iba't ibang uri ng protozoan at bulate. Sarcocystis paragonimus, Stenia ascaris ay isali, Echinococcus fasciolasis at iba pang di ko na masasabi. Dahil malaking benepisyo sa kalusugan, mga solusyon ay dapat nating pinag-iisipan. Kaya ang pananaliksik ay sadya rin kailangan. Salamat kay Dr. Claveria sa dagdag niyang mga kaalaman. Sa huli, edukasyon pa rin ang pinakamahalaga. Kalinisan ay dapat nating inuuna. Yung pagkain ng mga hilaw dahil pa nga kung kultura, isip at pananaw ay dapat ding magbago na. Salamat po. Happiness. So yan po ang ating pong alay kay Dr. Puts. At ma'am, tingnan ka po namin ang inyong mensahe.
Dr. JD, napaka-salamat, napakagandang yung poem mo at talagang naisama mo, parang na-summarize mo talaga yung itong discussion natin. Ipapasalamat ka. I would like to express my thanks to both of you again for asking me to be part of, for me, a very relevant, a very important discussion on parasites. And as I've said, we are surrounded with parasites. Honestly, if you ask me, I want to be infected once in a while because because that is one way of boosting up my immunity. So it's good for kids to play with soil, but they have to be reminded that after doing that, they should put their soiled fingers to your mouth. They should wash. So hygiene is very essential. And as I've said, parasites take some time to develop into a real severe infection and can cause malaise. But there are preventive and preventive measures, okay? Interventions that for me are very practical and are very doable. Okay. I hope the parents will start adding this to their responsibility of making their kids value and be interested about parasites. Okay, about parasites and how the parasites affect us. Mm, not just in their early days, but in subsequent years. So again, thank you, and I wish you more luck, and I hope you will continue doing this very, I'd say, very laudable program. And I salute both of you. And if you need my help, and I know you just feel free to ask me. I will do more than willing to help. I hope I have also shared.
Of course, ma'am.
Definitely,
Uh,
ma'am. You
You're
gave
great.
a lot of information na hindi naman regular na pinag-uusapan, ano? Hindi nga natin alam
oo.
kung sa DepEd or anong level sa DepEd itinuturo, no? Kung marinig ito ng kahit sinong mga magulang, magagamit, magiging
Yeah.
kagamit yung information.
May science naman sila, di ba? So, o kaya if they're not confident to do that, they can ask from academia just to
Opo.
give us short lecture and sharing. Yeah.
Opo.
Anyway, thank you and stay safe and more power to your Kwentong
Maraming
Likas
salamat
Yaman
po.
program. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Magpapaalam na po ang Kwentong Likas Yaman at salamat po sa inyo pong patuloy na pagsubaybay. Hanggang sa susunod na linggo po o episode. Salamat po.
Thank you.
Okay,
Hanggang sa
bye-bye.
muli. Sige po.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye. Yeah.
So, stop ko na.